Good evening. Welcome to the Milton, Massachusetts Warrant Committee. It is September 15th, 2025. Karen, can you call the roll, please?
We have Macy Lee, Nicole Boyson, Elaine Craighead, James Lee Darcy, Lorraine D., Larry Johnson, Brian McGuire, Nicole Kennedy, and Cecilia Yang. You have a quorum.
Okay, great. Before we get to our first agenda item, I'd like to speak a little bit about the schedule that we might be looking at for the next couple weeks. I'd like to share just a sketch of a calendar. So right now it is September 15th. The warrant is going to print, I don't remember if it was October 1st, but sometime in the first few days of October. We had previously talked about maybe meeting every Monday. Now it was pointed out to me that Monday the 22nd is Rosh Hashanah. I'm honestly not sure if Tuesday is also part of the High Holy Days. I don't know if any warrant committee members celebrate that. I haven't asked. I do know we have some interested residents in town who may want to come here, but would be conflicted with the high holidays. So that got me thinking maybe we should push next week's meeting to the middle of the week. And then the more I looked at it, the more I liked it, because that means we have, let's work backwards. Let's say on the 29th, let's say at the beginning of the meeting on the 29th, before that meeting, we've already made our decisions about everything. We come in on the 29th, we talk about the comments we're going to make as a warrant committee member. We hammer those, as a warrant committee, in the warrant. We hammer those out, it goes to print. So working backwards, that means the previous 2 weeks, we've got to make decisions on everything. So tonight, and I'm not trying to say, well, some articles are more difficult than others. I'm hoping we get through a good number of some of the articles that may require a little bit less work tonight. And then I know some articles still are being worked on, or our members are still researching, etc. So the more I look at this calendar, the more I sort of like it. That means we have tonight to get rid of some of the easier ones, maybe queue up some of the harder ones, talk about what the issues are. And then our members, plus the other people in town that they will work with, have a little more than a week to get everything hammered out, to come in on, could be the 24th, could be the 25th. We can talk about what we want the best, what the most. And then you come in and we're ready and we've got all the answers to all of our questions and we can hammer out these more difficult articles. Do any warrant committee members have any opinions about that? About moving it from Monday to later in the week to avoid Rosh Hashanah? Do you like Wednesday? Do you like Thursday? I will say no matter what day it is, we got the fire station.
I can't do Thursday, so Wednesday would be my preference.
Okay, we got to vote for Wednesday.
It looks like Rosh Hashanah goes from the 22nd through the 24th, so I'm not certain that we will avoid it, but again, not.
You're right.
Starts at sunset.
It ends at sunset on the 24th.
Starts at
sunset.
I talked to said that wouldn't be a problem.
I see, nightfall. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm just going off what the people I talked to said.
Well, Google agrees with you. So.
Yeah. I'm out on Wednesday. Thursday I have a conference to go to, so I'm unavailable.
Yeah, I'm not either on Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not free on Wednesday, you're not free on Thursday. Are people okay with moving it at all? That first idea?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alternative, cancel it and try to stuff everything in the 2 Mondays.
I mean, I told you all at the beginning we'd be doing every other week, so I don't love coming in right now and saying, come on, let's talk every week. I'm a worrier. I worry that we're going to get through, if I could predict the future, I think by the end of the night we'll still have 4 outstanding ones, and those 4 outstanding ones will all have tough issues to deal with. So I worry putting it to the very end. Yeah, I don't love asking everybody to come once a week. But I think it's prudent. Other thoughts?
My family celebrates Rosh Hashanah, so I prefer not to have it on that Monday.
Okay. So I should ask you, but Wednesday or even Tuesday? I don't
Wednesday's
even know.
fine.
Wednesday's fine.
Nikki's right.
Okay.
I was wrong at first, but now I'm right.
Okay. And Wednesday we wouldn't be live on TV either day. Wednesday would be conflicting with the select board. Thursday would be conflicting with the planning board. For lack of momentum, shall we say Wednesday?
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, we'll it's not scheduled till it's scheduled, but we're thinking tonight, get through as many as we can, as is prudent. There will be some difficult ones to talk about next Wednesday, and hopefully wrap those up. And then we're giving ourselves a little bit of space. If we knock 3 out of 4 out on that Wednesday, and I'd rather do them all, but that's sort of where we stand. Okay, I beat that to death. Let me stop sharing my screen. All right, we're going through the fall town meeting articles. The first one on the agenda, we have guests in to speak about what I'm calling the climate article. Welcome guests, have a seat. Can we, okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Please introduce yourself.
Now it's flashing red. Does that mean I need to do something?
Push a button.
I think if you start speaking, the MATV guys will
Okay.
react if it's not good.
Sound all right?
Can you speak to that again?
Do I sound all right?
Sorry, one more time?
My name is Alex Hasha.
No, we're not getting that. Hold on.
Just to get things started. Thank you very much. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Alex Hasha, and I am the chair of Milton's Climate Action Planning Committee, which has submitted this article for your consideration. Now, since you met last to discuss this, the Climate Action Planning Committee met last week to revise the article language to simplify and clarify the impact of passing the article and try to address some of the elements that were confusing the last time you discussed it. It sounds like the revised article language hasn't made it back to you, so I'd like to share my screen and start by putting it up there for you to see it.
We might have received it at 3 o'clock today. Does anyone else know if the thing we received at 3 o'clock is?
I don't think so.
I pulled that one. I mean, I think the one that we received at 3 o'clock still has the old language.
Correct. Okay.
So I'll read it out loud just to get started. So, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to adopt community-wide greenhouse gas emission reduction goals in alignment with the limits set by Massachusetts law, and to measure progress toward these goals by updating the town's greenhouse gas emissions inventory no less than once every 5 years. And authorize the select board to direct relevant boards, committees, and departments to proactively pursue fiscally responsible actions, investments, and policies to achieve the goals mentioned above and increase the town's resilience to the detrimental effects of climate change, and to act on anything related thereto. So,
If you could speak to the article as you're going to, and then maybe at the end of
Yes.
we'll talk about how this is different than what we looked at.
all right. So there was a lot of context in the article before that's been stripped out to be clear about what's happening if this article passes. So I'll go over that context. The context of this is that Massachusetts is working to reduce climate warming pollution. The 2021 Massachusetts Climate Roadmap Act sets statewide greenhouse gas emission limits, targeting a 50% reduction from 1990 levels by 2030, 75% reduction by 2040, and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And these targets are aligned with the Paris Accords. Now, these are statewide emission limits from all sources, not just government, but private and commercial and industrial. And so clearly every community has a role to play in reaching these targets. But the Climate Roadmap Law directs state agencies, not towns. There's no direct obligation on towns to meet these targets. There's no fines if the targets aren't met. What the law did trigger was the development of voluntary programs to support communities in partnering with the state on working towards these goals. And the preeminent one that we'll talk about tonight is called the Climate Leader Communities Program. Communities that qualify for it will have access to significant funding, tools, and support to move their energy systems in a clean and renewable direction. So passing this article, will move us towards qualifying for the Climate Leader Communities program, but it's non-binding. It signals resident support for the state's climate goals. It provides strategic clarity for town leaders and staff that voters would like to see them apply best efforts and creativity to move the town in this direction, but it would not commit the town to any specific future investment. So to the extent that this will cost something, and it will at some point, those decisions will flow through the normal channels, and they're not being constrained by passage of this article. But the article does concretely, it satisfies one of the 6 eligibility criteria for the Climate Leader program. And there are significant benefits to qualifying as a Climate Leader community. The largest of which is access to significant grant funding through the state. There are 2 kinds of Climate Leader Communities grants that are accessible once a community qualifies. There are accelerator grants, which are up to $1 million for projects that reduce municipal greenhouse gas emissions. And there are also technical support grants to help communities engage consulting services for engineering design or feasibility studies, things like that, up to $150,000. So each of these grants can be received once per grant cycle of the program. The current one is open for 3 years, similar to how Mass Save operates. So a Climate Leader community that gets in now over the 25-year horizon of these goals could conceivably get $1.15 million every 3 years or so for a total impact of more than $10 million over the 25-year period. The grants can be used for any sort of non-fossil fuel energy project. So that includes on-site solar installations, renewable heat systems such as heat pumps or solar thermal, energy storage with batteries, energy resiliency projects, and anything that's sort of geared towards reducing building and fleet emissions or energy efficiency of municipal facilities. And so the first, I would have liked to give you some really inspirational specific examples of Climate Leader community grants and projects that have been funded this way. But this program is new. The first 19 Climate Leader communities were certified only in May. And so there have been no specific projects that publicly awarded these grants yet. But just to give you an example of something that's coming up from Milton soon, the HVAC systems in all our schools are about 20 years old, so they're approaching end of life, and the Consolidated Facilities is beginning to study, how much longer they've got and replacement options. An accelerator grant could be applied to necessary projects like that, so long as they move in a clean energy direction. And Milton is already further ahead than a lot of communities in qualifying for the Climate Leader Communities program. There's 6 eligibility criteria, and Milton has already satisfied 3 of them. We've been a green community since 2010. That's the first requirement. We need to have a local committee to advise, coordinate, and lead clean energy and climate activities, and I serve on that committee. And a community needs to have adopted the specialized stretch energy building code, which we did at last May's town meeting. And that's actually a big hurdle for a lot of communities. So the remaining ones are to commit to eliminating on-site fossil fuel use by the municipality by 2050. Passing this article, even though it is non-binding, I've confirmed with our representatives at Department of Energy Resources, which administers the program and does the certification. They've confirmed that passing this article would satisfy the third criteria, highlighted in yellow here. And then there would be two more remaining. Completing a municipal decarbonization roadmap study, and that's a mouthful. I'll talk about what that is in more detail in a bit, and adopt a zero-emission vehicle-first policy. And so these are things that we are not committing to by passing this article, though we're authorizing leaders and staff in town to take a serious look at them. And I think it's worth a serious look because of the large incentives that are available. But the direct cost of passing the article should be minimal. It calls for measuring progress towards the goals with a greenhouse gas inventory once every 5 years. And just to give you a sense of what kind of costs might be associated with that, we've done two so far. They were done at the same time in 2023. We have a 2017 and 2022 emissions inventory that were both completed as part of a $50,000 community compact grant. So I would think of that more as an upper bound. I have a background in carbon accounting. These inventories can be completed with publicly available calculator tools like spreadsheet tools. It's helpful to have consultants who've done it a lot doing it and sort of checking their work, but it's conceivable to do it with town staff support. And actually, as of the last 3 weeks, we have an energy manager on staff in Milton who will be focused on issues like these. So in summary, passing this article would express Milton's support for statewide climate goals, and it would advance Milton towards climate leader status, moving us towards unlocking millions in potential state grants for necessary energy projects. It is non-binding, so we'd retain full discretion on future investments, and I did get a town council confirmation of that this week. And the direct cost would be fairly small, limited to measuring progress. So I have some FAQ slides in here that I think I will, these are based on the questions that came up in the last meeting, but I don't think I will talk through them all. I'll go to them if the questions come up again. So let me put the article back on the screen and love to
a little bigger.
I absolutely can. Let's see.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Does anyone have questions or comments for our guest? Yes, you see.
I'm just curious about the 19 communities that are already certified in May. Can you just name some of them? I'm just curious.
Lexington, Amherst. Sorry, I should have this memorized.
No, it's okay. No. It's just for my mind just to compare.
Yeah, Concord, I think.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's a lot of Metro West communities.
Metro West,
so there's
okay.
a whole swath of them up in Metro West around Lexington that are always kind of at the bleeding edge of this stuff. A lot of communities that passed articles like these before 2020.
Yes.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it out loud anyway. What happens if we pass this and then for some reason we don't measure our progress in those 5-year increments?
So that's not the question I thought you were going to ask. So let me- The opinion I got from town council is that the whole thing is advisory.
Yeah, so nothing happens.
No fines, yeah. No,
Maybe we're
no
ineligible
penalties.
for the funding.
Right, if we qualify for climate leader communities, similar to the Green Communities program, there's an annual reporting requirement. and the town will have to meet those requirements to maintain its certification.
And then you said this is state funded?
Yes.
Where does the funding come from at the state level?
I think it comes through the Department of Energy Resources budget or EEA. I'm not sure, though.
So are there any concerns about the stability of the funding, given what's happening at the federal level?
I think the future is very uncertain these days. So I think, acting on it while it's available seems like a good idea to me.
Thank you.
Brian?
We have to update the town's greenhouse gas emissions every 5 years, but we should report every year, you said, right?
I actually think that having some experience with greenhouse gas inventories, doing it every year can be a little noisy. So they're based on a combination of sort of internal operational data, publicly available utility data, and the methods used to calculate the emissions are fairly approximate. And so trying to measure sort of really precise changes from year to year, I think is more noise than signal in some cases. So I think about once every 5 years is feels like the sweet spot.
Seems like a long
That was something
time.
I made up personally. So
Yeah, well, one of my thoughts is if it's 5 years, it's so long, you don't know, by the time you get there, if you made progress,
So
then
what
it's such a long gap.
What we are tracking annually as part of already Green Communities reporting, and I'm assuming would be part of the reporting for this as well, is we every year are tracking municipal energy use, fuel use. I think summing it all up into a greenhouse gas protocol compliant inventory is sort of extra work, but I think we'll have information on the trends of fuel use and things like that. I also think that in the first decade or so of working on this, progress will be slow, and measuring it every year might be more frustrating than helpful. But I didn't want to sort of rope the town into $50,000 a year
Yeah.
for a measurement that might not be super valuable. But doing it more often if it's feasible.
One of my thoughts was, like, if you can get the measurements incorporated into the budget process for the departments, which isn't so really hard, it's just a different way of looking at it. It might just be part of the budget process, and then you would just see it as you go. You could theoretically should be able to see it monthly if you just do it that way.
Yeah, I would love to partner with town staff to sort of make this part of how they make decisions. I feel like that's a large undertaking, and so I didn't want to bite off too much with this first article, which I hope will not be the last energy transition related article that comes through town meeting.
So I thought would be my idea.
Julia, then Larry?
I was just going to help clarify. I think what you were asking was like the 5-year versus the yearly.
Yeah.
And my understanding is for the climate leader designation, once you have all 5 things in place, you have to report out annually.
Yes, but they don't require a greenhouse gas
Right.
inventory.
Right. So that's the 5 versus.
What that gives you is kind of this top-level summary number that Milton's greenhouse, I think I have it in here somewhere. Milton's greenhouse gas emissions increased 3-ish% between 2017 and 2022. So I don't think they calculate that as part of reporting, but they would have a bunch of data points like we bought this much fuel, we consumed this much natural gas at municipal facilities, used this much electricity. Yeah.
Larry?
I think I know the answer to this one too, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So by passing this article, are we automatically eligible for the grant, or is it that we have to pass?
No, it's a step towards it.
Right? Okay.
So there's 6 eligibility criteria. This will satisfy one more.
Okay.
We've satisfied 3, so we'll have 4 of 6. I think this is a good time to sort of jump into these the remaining requirements, right? So they're not part of the article. We're not committing ourselves to doing this, but also they're not huge. So the municipal decarbonization roadmap is basically a planning exercise. It's a well-defined process administered by the Department of Energy Resources, which is also who administers green communities. It's an exercise to catalog the town's fossil fuel equipment that's like in buildings and then the fleet, map its remaining lifespan and model replacement options. And so it's useful just for planning, period. I mean, I think we, as a town, want to be moving towards sort of having a roadmap of our upcoming capital expenses. It's useful for identifying accelerator grant opportunities once you've qualified. And it can be completed with no-cost technical assistance that's available through DOER. So there's a separate grant for that where they connect you with consultants to get this done. And again, we have an energy manager on staff now who would be the natural person to work with them. Yes.
Alex, is there a reason that we're not asking for all these things in this warrant? Is it more just it feels overwhelming? Because when I read, that looks pretty doable, and then adopting zero emission vehicle first, that's sort of like, buy electric cars instead of gas cars. Those are the 3 things left, right?
That's right.
And this is one of them which satisfies the commitment to eliminating. So I'm just curious what the pros and cons are.
Yeah. So originally we mentioned the zero emission vehicle first policy in the article with the intention that it was non-binding, but trying to just illustrate. But I think the problem with sort of putting it in the article is, to me, this zero emission vehicle first policy is the one that where you should have the most questions.
Got it.
Right? What's the relative cost of these, right? And does it apply to fire trucks? No, it doesn't. Does it apply to school buses? Sort of, eventually. And the reality is that the town doesn't have bandwidth, absent this sort of clear strategic direction from voters. The town has not had bandwidth to sort of do the research and preparation that I would want to have in hand before asking a group like you to endorse this, right? So this we will, with the assistance of this article and the assistance of DOER's grant funding to do a decarbonization roadmap, we'll gather the information required to make a responsible choice about this. So the article just helps town leaders and staff know, yes, we want you to take a serious look at this. But we can make a final decision on whether this is worth all that grant money in the future, having done a little more homework. And I think I wanted to take the approach of bringing a bunch of small, easy decisions to town meeting and not try to cram a 25-year
No, that's really helpful because
economic transformation into one article.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess the way it's written sounds very like when commercially available and practicable. So it's like I'm not quite sure what the grant. My thought is that if we can become eligible for the grant with a more general, less detailed policy, then maybe that makes sense, but I wouldn't want the town to feel uncomfortable passing that. You understand kind of my fine line.
Yeah.
I, of course, want to plan everything down to the nitty-gritty detail, that's why I'm a finance person, but it's more just what does the state expect for us to be eligible for grants, and if their expectation is modest, then it seems like, that's the trade-off, I guess.
I think another reason to give this one a little more time is that the first cohort of climate leader communities, again, just certified in May. So they all have these policies in place. And I spoke to a few sustainability directors. Some towns have had them in place for a while. And they all have carve-outs for things, even if something's commercially available, if it costs 10x,
Sure.
or, you know, it'll take $100,000 of charging infrastructure before they're operationally practical. They're not buying those yet. Right?
Yeah,
So
I guess that
so-
practicable felt like okay,
Right.
it gave some latitude.
Right. So we already comply with the Green Communities requirement to buy fuel-efficient vehicles. And then this creates sort of a hierarchy where battery electric is best, plug-in hybrid electric comes after that, traditional hybrids, then fuel-efficient. And every community I spoke to is like making exceptions for school buses, which are still, they're commercially available, but it's challenging.
It's not practical.
And there's a big exception built in for, you know, heavy-duty trucks and emergency vehicles. And
I have one question.
Okay, Nick?
I wanted to make sure I understood. I think you said that there was nothing binding on the town that goes with this, except for the inventory that they have to do of the carbon emissions
Yeah.
every 5 years. And did you say that was about $50,000 a year?
I would say put an upper bound at 50,000, because that's what we spent to do 2 greenhouse gas inventories and some more stuff in one grant in 2023.
So there is a,
But Nick, you said per year.
Every 5 years.
every time there's a survey, inventory.
Okay.
Yeah, not per year.
Okay.
But there is sort of, so there is a commitment or a binding on the town to do that inventory, and there will be a cost for that inventory.
I would like it if the town took it seriously. I don't think a goal without a commitment to measure progress is much of a goal.
No.
But the guidance from town council was that the whole thing is advisory, non-binding.
Even the inventory,
Yeah.
okay?
And I think you could get it done with town staff and spreadsheet tools for free.
Jameson?
Are there grants available to fund the inventory?
So the ones that we have were funded by a community compact grant. And that's just, I think, one example. I think there's others that could potentially be applied.
We have other questions for our guests? Or discussion? If no other questions for our guest, I would like to share my screen to show just the difference between, and Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the difference between what we saw previously and what you're proposing. I think I got this right. Can you see it? Yes, you can see better than I can. A bunch of stuff on my screen. So it's the article that we received in print a while ago. It's the article that we discussed 3 weeks ago, but we're taking out, so we say, we're gonna meet the aim to meet the greenhouse gas emissions set by Massachusetts state law. We previously said Massachusetts state law says 50%, 75%, 100%. We're taking that out. So now we're just saying, meet the one set by Massachusetts state law.
You're including it by reference, yeah.
Yeah.
And if that changes, if the law changes, then our goals would change.
The next 2, I'll call them paragraphs, stay the same, I believe. And then these last, 2 paragraphs were the source of a lot of discussion 3 weeks ago. But they sort of aren't the directing part of the article. They're not the part of the article where we say the select board should do this, the town government should do this. They were previously saying, and here's what we need to do to be a climate leader. So my understanding is you took that language out.
Yeah.
That led to a lot of discussion 3 weeks ago, but now that would be something that you might tell a town meeting, you've told us, you might tell a town meeting, we might put it in our comment, but it's not part of the article.
Yeah. The intention is still there, but we wanted to make it clear that its impact is discretionary.
Yeah. Okay.
Why did you take it out? I don't understand.
To clarify, I think that while in other towns, there's a kind of a town meeting norm of including lots of context in article language, that's unfamiliar and unusual in Milton, and so we want to put this context where people will understand that it's context and not not a binding result of the article itself.
Yeah, and Brian, I worked with Alex on this. So, and if you look at the article, the first part says, direct the select board to do this. Then the next part says, authorize the select board to do that. And then the part that we removed just talked about the climate action leader communities. The last part that we removed didn't say, direct the town to do this or that. It just sort of talked. And certainly in Milton, our articles usually don't contain descriptions like that. They say, we're going to do this.
Include that in the comment.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate for a comment.
Or
So we've drafted a rationale for passage that, should you support this, I'd like to partner with whoever's writing the report and offer that as a starting point. So a lot of this has been moved into that. And either you'll say it or we'll say it.
Okay, so we can have discussion with our guests sitting here. We can have our discussion with our guests sitting in the back. Is there more discussion about this article?
I'll give you my thoughts, is I do think, I would probably rather have the firm language in there, because it would, I know it's not normally done, but you would think you'd want to force people to look at it and say, you have to do this, you should be part of it. And I think that this is a good thing, actually, and it saves money for the town in the long run. And I think, besides health and the environment, but I think it also, you have to find a way to incorporate it with everybody in their budget process. I think that's important, because if they get ownership of it, then they'll do it. And I think that's what I would recommend, make it part of the monthly budget process so that they kind of buy into it. I would strongly advocate for that, my opinion.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The Climate Action Planning Committee is going to continue your work, right? I mean, it's going to continue forever, I guess.
Forever, that sounds like a long time.
Sorry.
This is a long-term project.
Yeah.
So I view this as the first, well, I guess it's actually the second time a climate-related article has come to town meeting, but not the last, right? So I think there has been support for this and from town leaders and staff. I think a town meeting article will make it easier for them to focus on it. But starting with sort of maximum discretion, I think is a nice sort of collaborative starting point. We can always, if it's really not working out, you can always come back in a more adversarial stance, but I'd much rather not start there. And I definitely, I don't want it to minimize the risk of this sort of getting hung up at town meeting and becoming controversial.
I would think they'd be in favor of it, but my thoughts. Which, I'm not saying it's adversarial, just firm, but okay.
Julie?
I like the idea of removing those last two paragraphs highlighted in yellow, just because I saw within this group how it caused some, I don't even know if confusion is the word, but discussion, to sort of make sure we all were on the same page about, like, oh, it's not actually about that. Those are just the next steps to be. So I like the thought of moving that to the comment instead of the article itself. I guess for me overall, I don't see any downside to passing this.
I agree.
I think it's super, I mean, as we talked about before, if anything, I'd like to have a little more teeth, but to Alex's point, I think,
Well, Julia, since you have the microphone, would
Easy
anyone
for
like
you.
to make a motion?
Make a motion, Julie.
Add teeth.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we vote to recommend town meeting vote yes on Article 4 as
Not the ones that's on the
Alex
screen now.
presented.
Yeah.
Right,
Us.
as sure. You can take over again, Alex, to show the,
Okay.
I second
motion was
that.
made, you
Stop
seconded?
sharing first.
Oh, well, I'm not good at stopping sharing. Motion was made and seconded. Let's have it up on the screen. Karen, do we have any voting members remote tonight?
I don't believe we have anyone remote. Let me just double check in case someone's arrived late. No,
Well,
everyone-
a motion was made and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion?
I didn't hear who seconded.
I did.
Is there discussion on the motion? Karen, are you okay if we do a show of hands vote?
I am.
We're breaking new ground here. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand.
I'm abstaining. I don't know how to signal that.
Okay, all opposed, please raise your hand. All abstaining, please raise your hand.
The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, I'm at a member's request. I'm going to move around the agenda a little bit. The one that I called on the agenda, Elderly and Disabled Tax Fund. I hope that was the appropriate name for it. We had two experts working on that. One couldn't make it to our meeting tonight, and one will have to leave earlier. So, Elaine, are you ready to speak to this?
I believe so, yes. Grace couldn't make it tonight. She was the one who talked to the town administrator and got some answers, and I talked to the town treasurer and got some feedback. So I have access to most of her information, but perhaps not everything. So please bear with me. The inception of this article apparently is that given the override that we recently had, the idea is to try to offset whatever we can as a town for elderly and disabled taxpayers. And I asked a ton of questions about who qualifies as elderly, what's the application process, et cetera. A number of things will be decided by the committee that will be formed. So that committee, of course, is made up of the chair of the Board of Assessors, the treasurer, and 3 residents who are picked by the select board. What they envision at this time is that the way that this is a voluntary contribution by residents, okay, so this will only be a voluntary contribution, and what they're envisioning is that it would be a check-off contribution with their excise tax bill, just like we do with M.P.A.C.E, if you all are familiar with that, right? So that you can contribute to like a school fund through M.P.A.C.E and just check it off on your tax bill and add more money to that, your excise tax. And so they would do something very similar in that. But that isn't necessarily the limit to how they could advertise this and publicize it, etc. It could be distributed in other ways, advertised in other ways to residents, and that would depend, of course, on what this committee decided to do. Contributions could, though, also be made via Unipay. That's what currently they use also for M.P.A.C.E, so that Unipay system that can, okay, I'm not going to make any comments about Unipay. So that Unipay system that we have in town, you could also use to contribute. The treasurer, I asked questions about how this would work financially. She said it would probably be, of course, we don't know yet because the committee will decide this, but it would probably be its own cash account and really just a pass-through, because the intention is that every year the monies that were collected would go to the applicants and be completely dispersed. It would zero out during the year. So And that would be their goal each year. Unless, of course, the committee decided to recommend that it be placed in some sort of account where it would earn monies, but she didn't seem to think that that was particularly viable. It would depend on what the committee decided to do. I asked if the town, because we have leftover money in the town so often, I asked if the town would be prohibited from ever appropriating funds for this account, and she said, no, it's not prohibited. The taxation aid, because it's named as taxation aid in the article, it could be any taxes, not just real estate taxes, but personal property and motor vehicles. I was asked by Grace to make it clear that the senior tax discount that we passed at town meeting in February is completely separate from this. The two are not the same thing. People would have to apply every year for this, for whatever new monies would be in that pass-through account. The application would likely be online, and it would be from a pool of applicants who would qualify based on this committee that would be set up of the chair board of assessors, treasurer, and the 3 residents chosen by the select board. I believe that's what I have.
Yes, Macy.
I have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. Is the form or the application to access these funds only available online?
The board will decide, the committee will decide that,
Okay.
but I think if you're going to say that you think it should be available in other ways too, I would totally agree with you.
I'm just thinking about the community to which this
Yes.
is intended.
Yes.
May not be, I'm just thinking about my 80-year-old parents. They would not be able to complete a form online. Or if it's a person who's part of the disability community, whether that'll be accessible in terms of,
No, I
like
totally
seeing it,
agree, yeah.
So I was just wondering about that.
Other questions? Yes.
You mentioned that the committee may decide to put funds into an account and have it accrue credit, but that the treasurer said it was likely not viable. Did she give an explanation on why?
I would imagine that whatever funds we brought, I don't know how much the residents will contribute at first, whether it would be a ton of money that would be viable to put in an interest-bearing account or not. And I don't know if I got an explanation from her about that.
I could speculate, though. So typically an endowment requires, I think the difference is it an endowment where we'll use the interest every year or the investment earnings every year to fund, or is it an annual fund every year? And typically the general endowment rule is you can only use 4% per year. So you need a lot of money in an endowment to really make a difference. And so my guess is if we raise $1,000, that's fantastic. If we use it all, if we raise $1,000, that's $40, right? So per year, and that's not helpful. So that would be my assumption as to why, although I can't speak for Joanna.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Julia?
Forgive me if I missed this. Is it the committee that would determine how often it is the money's dispersed?
That's a very good question, Julia. Thank you for asking it and stumping me. The intention is that it would be an annual disbursement of all funds. But again, and she did say that residents would have to reapply annually, so I imagine.
But I'm just thinking, since our tax bills come out quarterly, would it line up with that, or would
Oh,
it
I
be-
see.
Anyway, I would imagine it's the committee maybe that would decide that. But.
Just, I may have missed it, but is it the committee that decides that the applicant is appropriate for the funds?
I asked that too, because I said, who qualifies as elderly? What's involved in the application? What should it entail? I asked a ton of other questions, and she wasn't trying to sidestep anything. She just said those decisions will be made by the committee.
Are there other municipalities in the Commonwealth that have done this that we can look to for?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Okay. I'm sort of making mental notes, maybe, like, there's what we're asking now, and then a month and a half from now, what we want to present to town meetings. So maybe this is, we can file some things away.
Just going back to the next to last question. The committee, they can't say, I mean, there's a determination as to how they're going to, what level they're going to pay people at, but they can't say, well, I want these people to get it, but not these people. Like, there's never going to be that decision, like,
I think there will be people who don't qualify, who turn in an application.
yeah.
And I asked whether, it's a great question, I asked whether they would disperse funds based on like a percentage basis for the people who were the most in need of the money versus the people who were in less in need of the money. And she again said those decisions would be made by the committee.
Ron?
More procedural question.
Shoot.
How do we get this information to town meeting? The article is really short.
Okay.
Are we going to include this into the comment? Or do we want the proponent for the bill to explain this on the floor?
Good question.
Well, we start with the comment.
Yeah.
And a lot
If
of,
more information is necessary, like I'm sure Alex, for that last article, will give a presentation.
Yeah, for this one, I mean, I can't predict the future, I can't predict what town meeting will want, but I think if we give a robust comment addressing, sort of laying out everything we know, a town meeting might be satisfied with that.
Sorry, one more question. So I just want to make sure I understand. So they want to start this fund, have people donate into the fund, but it's not going to have any guidelines with it? I mean, it shouldn't that all be spelled out before people start donating funds to it?
That's a great question. I think that the committee will be formed, it would have to be formed before they actually advertise, publicize, the committee's going to be making those decisions. So the people who are volunteering monies for this would know a lot more about it because the committee would have made those decisions.
just to follow up on Lorraine's question, so is the purpose of this article, is it to allow the formation of this committee?
Yeah,
So is that the vehicle? Okay,
Yes.
okay. So
that makes
perhaps
more
the
sense.
focus of the article should be should be the vehicle to create the committee, right? Because that's, okay, so as long as if I stay focused on that, as opposed,
Fund and the committee.
yeah, okay, so,
Then they have to decide how do they advertise it.
right,
How do they get people to.
and how they're going to administer it
Right.
too.
Okay.
Okay, okay,
I think they'd
okay.
have a
Okay.
webpage or something.
All right.
People actually can read.
It's a good idea, but-
Do we think the article should be more instructive in how this fund's going to be created, how this committee, I don't know, I'm just saying, because right now, as it stands, it's pretty broad.
I can't speak directly to that, but every other time we've had a question like that that says, adopt the provisions of Mass General Laws, chapter this, section this. Every time we've asked the town administrator, can we change the wording? Town administrator always says, you're adopting M.G.L. text, you really got to do it like this.
Which I understand.
I can't say for
No,
this one specifically.
No, we've had that encounter before, but I'm just thinking, like the layperson, you can definitely find any general laws under mass.gov, but I'm just thinking, besides citing the statute, which is what it does, I'm just thinking it's still pretty broad. I don't know. If the purpose is for just to create the fund in the committee, then we'll just leave it that way.
Yeah.
That's all, and not question the administration of the fund and the creation committee. That's all I'm raising. I understand that, but I'm just saying, for the purposes of clarity for other people, especially at town meeting.
Are you saying that's something to, would we be able to put something in the comment that would address your concerns?
No, it's just, like I said, it's just a curiosity on my part. If the purpose of the article is really simply to create the fund and the committee, then so be it. So be it. We'll just let it,
I don't know if you want to look at.
No, I've
fine.
seen, yeah,
Okay.
section. But, no, I'm just saying, like, that's fine.
Nick, you raised your hand, and then Brian.
Do we think that the article would be strengthened about adding a sentence in there to the effect of, the committee to determine the guidelines for applicants? Because it seems like a lot of the conversation questions we've had have been around that, who's going to administer it, what are the requirements, what's the eligibility, and just a generic broad-based sentence or clause that says something that the committee will establish the guidelines might clarify some of the questions that we have that maybe people in town meeting might have.
It would have to be a really broad statement, in my opinion, because it's not just that they're going to determine who's eligible. They're going to determine what kind of account it's going to be. They're going to determine what the application process is going to look like and so forth.
It's very broad.
Unless we hear otherwise from the town administrator, I'd say that belongs in the comment, just because of what I've heard from town administrator in the past saying, please don't touch this language. Brian and then Larry?
Well, a little bit to what Nick said, I agree. Like, I think there should be something in there. I would be more comfortable with something in there about guidelines that said there's some type of guidelines and the money will be distributed equitably or something like that among what's considered eligible candidates. I don't know if that's possible, but does that make sense? You wouldn't want people, you get a committee group in there and they could theoretically pick and choose. It sounds like it's wide open how they could give out the money.
Yeah, it's wide discretion. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't think it's right. I think you might want to say, any money distributed must be equitable or something. I don't know how to quite put it,
But what's equitable? I mean, like I said, I raised the question with her about if you're in greater need, do you get a greater percentage of this fund that's out there? Or do you get less than that? So depends on what equitable, I guess, means.
I think I'm after Larry.
Larry and then.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things is, in town meeting, we're so used to budget articles, and frequently we establish new funds in budget articles, and usually there's a dollar amount associated with it, a fund for this purpose, and this amount of money that's going to go into it. So I think we just want to make sure that in the comment that it's clear that this is not a fund for the town budget.
Correct.
It's for, donations or whatever else.
Macy? And then I have a comment after that.
Not necessarily for you, but for anyone. Do we know whether other municipalities have adopted similar funds, and whether we don't know?
Jay asked that a couple of minutes ago, and I said I didn't know.
I didn't hear that question.
But that's definitely something I can ask about.
Do you want to go before me?
Do you mind?
Go ahead.
'Cause I might clarify. So, Massachusetts law, section 63D, kind of tells us this stuff. So, I mean, it's my opinion that it's referred to here. So possibly our comment could explain some of that, right? Which referred to, but I'm looking at section 30D and it's sort of accepts the provisions hereby authorized, it's legal stuff, but it's much more specific, and they say an amount not less than $1 or, right, so there's a lot more detail in the section. I agree fully, we shouldn't cut and paste the section into the comments, but we might use that section to help, because, again, I need my glasses to read this, but it might help us write the comment, is all I'm saying, as I'm looking at the section.
And the very last sentence is, said board shall adopt rules and regulations to carry out the provisions of this section and to identify the recipients of such aid. What I was going to say is sort of procedural. It sounds like we're splitting in two directions. Both might be reasonable. One direction might be assuming we like this, we approve this as is stated, and someone, maybe me, maybe Elaine, goes off and talks to town administrator and says, town administrator, can we add a sentence here addressing this, and if so, what would it be? Another equally valid way to do it is we add a sentence here, and then we go to town administrator and say, town administrator, we added a sentence. Is it okay, or do we need to take it out? Either way, we could come back next week and undo what we did. For purposes of getting stuff done, we could discuss for 20 minutes what the sentence is, and then go to town administrator and ask him if it's okay, or we could adopt this as it is, and then go to town administrator, ask, can we add a sentence? Nick?
I thought there was a third choice, which is to put this kind of detail in the comment, which I thought was where we were kind of headed.
Wonderful, yeah, I mean, the detail would go in the comment if we adopt this as it is, yes. I didn't know how much there was a push to amend the article.
I like putting it in, I like keeping it the way it is and putting our discussion points into comment.
Okay, so it sounds like informally, there's not even a big push for me to run off to town administrator and ask him if we can add a sentence to the article. Okay. Is there more discussion, or is there a motion? And if there is a motion, there will still be time for discussion.
Motion to recommend that the town vote yes on Article 3 as currently written.
Okay. Okay, second was from Ron. Is there discussion on the motion in front of us? Karen, are you okay with another hands vote?
I am.
All right. All in favor of the motion before us, please raise your hand.
I guess.
Got it?
All opposed? And I will abstain. Okay, that's two. The next thing on the agenda.
Really good job, Elaine. That was a lot of detail.
Thank you.
You know, and a lot
Thank you.
of, yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
did
great.
Just asked a lot of questions, that's all.
Really awesome. You are now the resident expert.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is the election budget item. Do we have that in print even? Hold on.
We have it what?
Did we get that in writing? I'm going to.
Warrant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's in the warrant. Has everyone seen it?
Yeah, you may-
Okay. I will look to our two experts, Cecile and Julia. Does one of you want to speak to this?
I can talk about it.
Go for it.
So we met with both the town administrator and the town clerk to talk about this article. My first question was like, if town meeting votes no, what happens to this article? And his answer was, the election's already been called, so if we're not pulling budget from the proposed fund source, we would have to find it somewhere else in the budget. So the election is happening regardless of whatever happens to our recommendation or the way the town votes. And then looking further into the cost, I had a question about the distribution between general expenses and salaries. So if you look at Article 10 of the original 2025 town meeting, you'll notice that the general expense is a lot like the change between 2025 and 2026 is a lot less for general expenses and more for salaries and wages. So we had a bunch more elections in 2025 than 2026, so the overall cost went down. Now we have to make it go up again. And the reason that general expenses is going up a lot more is, and this was completely new to me, for town municipal elections, we have to pay for like the budget, the ballot, and all of the accessible voting machines and all of that. So general expenses is a lot more for this special election. And I think they elected to not do early in-person voting. Was that the early in-person? Which the proposed budget is $60,000, and that is based on the February 2024 MBTA special election number. So it gives us some cushion because that was historic turnout, and we don't anticipate that amount for this year. And so anything that doesn't get spent can go back into the budget, and the select board and warrant committee can reallocate it. All of this money is going to be for this election, so it can't get sent somewhere else before it is spent, and then the leftover is sent back to the budget. And then I think there was one more note that I made, which is we can ask the state for some reimbursement. We didn't get an exact breakdown, but I think Sue said we tend to get 85 to 95% reimbursement for staff time and 100% for postage. So we have to pay for all the postage for the ballots. So there should be some amount that we get back, and that will also go back into the town budget, which we can reallocate afterwards.
Thank you.
And just to back up to the 30,000-foot view, in case anyone isn't aware, we're having a special election in November because a select board member stepped down from their seat early. So that was unanticipated when we'd finalized the budget last year, and that's why this article is in front of us. And to Cecile's point, the election's happening whether this article passes or not, so it's just a matter of like where the money's going to come from.
Any questions?
So
Go ahead.
I did, just the dollar amounts, I appreciate your breakdown. So I hope I'm reading this right. This is Article 1 in our current warrant, right? And so I see salaries and wages, original 65, amendment 42, and that's literally just because we have a special election. And the 42 grand is salaries and wages for that, similar general expenses. Like, this is going up because we have a special election in addition to our normal election.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
got it, perfect. That probably was
To the
obvious.
anticipated ones.
So me, I know, so, okay, perfect, thank you. So those numbers looked reasonable to you all? Yeah. Okay. And the money back, so does that, do we not anticipate, so it sort of feels like we should budget the net amount, but are we really, is it really not clear how much we would get back? That's a Susan Galvin question, I guess.
Well, a lot of it depends on how many people vote early by mail.
Okay.
Because we get 100% reimbursement for that. And they anticipate that probably being pretty significantly different than February 2024, not only because of the historic turnout, but also the state had just sent out the postcards for voting by mail in anticipation of upcoming state and national elections. And if you opted in, you, like Milton sort of just, the election was just soon enough after that they also had to provide you a mail-in ballot, even if your intention wasn't to vote by mail for the Milton election. So the timing of that sort of made Milton on the hook for a lot of mail-in ballots.
Okay.
And they don't anticipate nearly as many mail-in ballots for this election.
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused. If the salary and wages, is that for the 65,000, the original, is that for, just for the election budget in general?
That was the annual,
That's the annual budget?
Yeah.
Okay. For just for elections, not for the entire town clerk's office?
just for elections.
Just for elections, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, I'd never really thought about it before, but when it's purely a local election on the ballot, the town has to absorb all of those costs, unlike a state or federal election. And like, apparently we use different vendors for things when it's just a local election than we do for state or federal elections.
I didn't know that either.
I know, it was very, Stu Galvin. She knows a lot.
Yeah.
Kidding, right? You're right.
So all the people working the elections, volunteers or paid?
Paid.
Okay, gotcha. So
I did
that's
it.
like, okay.
Paid.
And that's
Not a ton,
also,
but paid.
and that's also why they decided not to offer early in-person voting for this local election, because then they have to have a polling place set up for
Yeah.
5 or 6 days and pay
Yeah.
the people, so it's significant increased costs.
Wow.
Any other questions, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Gonna go 3 for 3, make another motion.
I feel like I have a conflict of interest since I.
Rotate?
I'll make a motion to accept the article.
Okay, second?
I second it.
Great. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay. Karen, I'm going to call for another show of hands vote. All in favor, raise your hand.
Okay.
All opposed, raise your hand. All abstaining. Okay. I would like to take a moment. Everybody in this committee has done good work, but I think this was in a special, I was impressed with the work by these two experts on what could have been a, hey guys, we got to do it, let's do it. You were thorough, you put in the work, you answered all our questions. Thank you, I was impressed. Again, not to slide anyone else on any other articles, just it left out of me.
Well, and big props to Cecile. As a first year, she has some really good questions that I had not thought of, so well done.
I learned from you from Article 2.
What?
I learned from you from Article 2.
Did you say Article 2? Article 2, licenses and permits.
Speaking of.
It's a lot longer. Would someone like to speak to that?
Do you want me to take the lead? Okay, so Cecile and I kind of went through this with a fine-tooth comb and asked a lot of possibly obnoxious questions to Joanna and then Nick. Long story short, I finally got a question answered that I'd had for the last 2 years, which Jay already talked about tonight, which is basically when you're adopting a Massachusetts general law, there's very little leeway in the language. So that was a big question of mine, and once we got the official answer from Nick via town council, that sort of negated a lot of our questions and comments. So happy to go into detail about any of that, but long story short, we cannot make a ton of changes to the actual language. So the purpose of this article is to give our tax collector the ability to furnish different departments and boards and commissions in town with periodic lists of people who are not paid up on their taxes, so that if those same people or entities come in front of any of these boards looking for a particular permit, they can be denied that permit until they catch up on their taxes. So that's the 30,000-foot view of that. We sort of asked about, some of the processes that are laid out here, like, okay, does that exist currently? No. Are you prepared to create that system? Yes. So, we really went over it in a lot of detail with the main person that would be taking this on, which is our tax collector. We asked about the exceptions list at the end, if we were sort of beholden to that, or could we remove some of these, and the answer came back is no. Yes, we are beholden to this list. So that was that. Cecile, anything you wanted to add?
We covered it.
Questions?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the exceptions. So what's included?
You read my mind.
So the main thing they're anticipating is people who are doing work on their house, coming in front and, wanting to do an addition or something.
Okay.
And then being able
So
to
if
say
they're
no.
late on the real estate taxes or in default, that's.
Right.
One question I have, and I was thinking about this, like the lighting bylaw, coming back to this, I know we're not talking about that, but like the fact that you can't appeal it, and I know that a lot of things you can't appeal, but like, I think that's a problem. Like, it doesn't mean just because other fines and fees you can't appeal, you shouldn't do that one. And that's my fear, my concern with some of
There's a whole
this.
process for appealing laid out here.
In this?
Yes.
Okay.
All the way up to you can take it to the appellate tax board in Cambridge. So there is
Awesome.
yeah.
Smokes, yeah.
That's
which
great.
We kind of went into in some detail with her as well.
Okay.
And then if you reference the sections of the law, the M.G.L. that are referenced, there's, even more detail in some of them. So for better or for worse, we are taking all that on.
Some of these things that they don't, I just wonder why shall not apply to the following, like
I know.
bicycle permits, dog permits. I don't know.
Yeah, we had that question too.
Burning.
No answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, theatrical events and public exhibitions. It seems like-
Can't deny the public the arts.
So I'll ask if there's no modifying this, it's all or nothing. Maybe the question is it too onerous? So the typical example would be someone's late on their property taxes and they can't, I'm building a porch on my house right now, they can't do that. Is that the question for us and for town meeting? Is that too onerous? And if that's the question that we answer, then.
I know that our current treasurer would really like to have this option, because right now, there's really nothing. And she was unable to quantify what she thinks we could bring in through this, just because so many of these things sit with so many different departments, and that she is not, privy to all of it. But she gave an example of there's a particular property that's significantly, like, it would be a large influx of tax revenue to the town that we could really use if she could use something like this on that particular property. So, and she seemed, I guess they have new collection software, or there was an upgrade to the system they have the week before we happened to speak to her. So the ability to run these lists is much, like, she doesn't have to keep track of it in an Excel spreadsheet anymore. So it's not particularly onerous for her to run those lists and distribute them to the various boards and permitting authorities.
Okay. Yeah, this is one where I feel like we could discuss it all day.
Yeah.
But if it comes down to, do we want to do this? Do we not want to do this? Then it might be a much shorter discussion.
I mean, I would say that the fact that there's an appropriate appeal process, that people get a chance, and that they can enter into a payment agreement so they can pay it back over time, again, those things seem pretty reasonable to me.
If those are the,
Ron?
no, you go, Ron, sorry.
I just checked bicycle permits. I've never heard of that, but it's been repealed since 2008. So I don't know if you need to just double check these, they're all legit.
They're still in the Massachusetts general laws.
Okay. It says M.G.L. 8511A was repealed in 2008. I don't know who's paying for bicycle permits. That's extra revenue.
All right. All right. Larry?
You can flag that.
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems like, I was trying to figure out what would go in the comment, because a lot of this, there's a lot of context here that wouldn't go in the comment. Like, there's a large property that,
Okay.
you would love to get that money back. You wouldn't put that in the comment. But having the appeal process and a payment agreement seems like good candidates. That there's an appeal process and that you can go into a payment agreement plan. It seems like a good, suggestions.
Yeah, to highlight, because it's a long
Yeah.
article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bravo for just reading.
Yeah, so maybe people will skip right to the, I would expect people will skip right to the comment, I hope.
That's what I always do,
Being there.
pretty much every time.
Is there, again, we could discuss this all day, but as far as before we make a motion, or even after we make a motion, is there more discussion right now? Or just would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve Article 3 for recommendation.
Okay.
For a yes recommendation.
Article 2.
Article 2.
Sorry.
And I'll
Article
second.
2.
Okay, Lorraine seconded.
First time I made a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on this motion? Okay, let's do another show of hands. Nobody showed up online, Karen? No? Okay. Let's do another show of hands vote. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay, all opposed, please raise your hand. And all abstaining, please raise your hand.
Jay, you're keeping us from unanimous votes.
It's like, dictators win unanimously. But, it is a little silly, but I don't want to think that much. I don't want to think, oh, should I vote? Should I not vote? All right, 4 up, 4 down. Okay.
It's only 8:20.
Brian, good, you didn't jinx us at all.
I'd be happy with 4.
Brian, I think I'm looking at you, the Master Plan Implementation Committee article.
Right, we did talk about it, we met, we had recommendations, and I can talk about it in detail.
Okay.
But they're meeting Wednesday night, and they're gonna come back with some changes based on our recommendations.
Okay,
Do
yeah.
you want me to go through it, or do you wanna wait?
I would like to go through it, I think.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, they're gonna make changes. So, it's state law that every municipality has either a policy or a bylaw referring to the Master Plan Implementation Committee. So this is what this is a bylaw. We had a policy before, and now they recommended this bylaw. So Grace and I worked on this, and she's not here, so I'll speak to it. Basically, I think they've been going on for 10 years, I think now, and we basically like the article. It's solid, it's good. We had some recommendations. We had actually 6 recommendations to it, and I'll go through each one. Right now, the there are 9 members to the board, 3 are appointed by the planning board, 3 by the select board, 3 by the town moderator. They're all 1-year terms. We recommended that people go to 3-year terms staggered, so there's continuity. They didn't actually like that because they thought that if it was more than 1 year, people might not want to serve on this board, you know? But that was one of our recommendations. They didn't like that one. Quorum, we recommended that there should be some language in there on a quorum, but apparently Nick says it's the case anyways. It's always a majority, so we don't need that.
Sorry, can you say that last part again?
We recommend, there was no language in there about a quorum, like how many people need to be present. But according to Nick, it's by default that it's always a majority, so it doesn't need to be in there. We recommended that it get posted on the town's website. They are posting on the town website, but it doesn't state it in here that they should. So that's being put in there. We recommended defined goals, but it's embedded in the charge of the commission, so there's no need to put that in there. So they nixed that, and I'm fine with that. We recommended that they meet quarterly, and they agreed to that, so they're going to put that, add that to the bylaw. And we recommended that they meet with the warrant committee, and they agreed to that too. And they're going to put that in the bylaw. And that's it.
In what context are they, like, what's it
Just
going to say?
to talk about their annual plan, that they present the annual plan to the town meeting. And they're going to talk to us about it when they do that.
Okay.
Before they do that. That's it.
So it sounds to me like the ones that, some of them maybe were moot, but the, like defining a quorum as moot.
Right, we don't need to do that,
Yeah.
apparently.
So the ones you suggested are meeting quarterly, they like, meeting with the warrant committee, they like.
They like that.
3 years
Putting it on the town website, language in there, they liked.
Okay,
They didn't like going to 3 years and having staggered terms.
okay.
And then I was thinking, well, they said 1 year, but I was thinking, well, maybe, I didn't ask this question, but maybe we should go to 2 years. Maybe I can still ask the question, I suppose,
Okay.
in staggered terms.
Are there,
Yeah, okay. Julia, then Nikki, and then maybe me, depends on what I told you.
so are there term limits?
No, there's just 1 year terms. They get appointed to 1 year terms.
But it says that can be renewed annually.
Right.
So conceivably, someone could just be on there for the rest of their lives if they wanted to be and were
They could be, there's
reappointed?
no term limits. We didn't think of
Okay.
that.
I don't think, do any of the committees have term limits? I'm not sure.
I don't know. And then I see that it says not more than 9 members, and then down below it talks about not more than 3 members appointed by. Do they want minimum like, I know that there has been an issue in the past with people not being appointed to committees and them just sort of sitting empty. Do we want to have any language in there that, I don't know if we're able to, but that requires a minimum number? So that doesn't happen?
We didn't ask that, so that's a good question. I think the intent was always that there'd just be 9, you know? And I think that they've been at 9, is my understanding, but I can, I'll ask that question. It's a meeting in a couple nights, so.
Julia subsumed my question.
Oh, okay.
That's how I determined
It's a good one.
It was shorter than hers, hers was more
Thank you.
comprehensive. Thanks, Julia.
Jay, do you have
Yeah, I was just going to say, one problem with the 3-year staggered terms is it says there should be 1 member of the planning board and 1 member of the select board. And they,
staggering?
yeah, so if a member of the select board in their second year decides, I'd like to join this committee now, well, they can't serve a 3-year term. That's not an insurmountable hurdle. It's just.
Right.
Could they be bumped over to one of the citizen?
Yeah, again, it's not an insurmountable hurdle. James Lee?
Just a clarifying question. They need to report to the warrant committee. Would that be written into this?
Yes.
Recommendation next to the planning board, select board, town meeting, and it would be warrant committee? as
Warrant
well?
committee, right.
Okay.
Town meeting and warrant?
Right. Any other questions?
And this is just a successor to the existing master plan implementation committee that's, was always just temporary, right?
Right.
This makes it permanent, okay.
Well, it's a bylaw to make it permanent. It's a bylaw. They didn't have a bylaw before. But they're required to have a plan, that every town or city has to have a plan or bylaw.
I've got sort of a hostile question, and you may not know the answer, maybe I'm just asking the world. You know, we made the master plan in 2015. I don't know what we've done to implement it. I don't know what the master plan implementation committee has done. That's phrased sort of rudely, but it's honest. I don't know what they've done. That may not change my vote on this. Maybe it's a good idea whether they've done a lot or nothing, but I think that would be a good thing.
Well, I'm not sure either, but didn't East Milton plan that they came up with last year that we voted on, didn't that come from this?
The overlay zoning?
The overlay zoning?
Yeah, that came from the master plan.
Oh, okay.
I think that was the piece of this.
Shows me, okay.
There are some
Yeah.
stuff that they did, there's like, reducing the number of town meeting members, I mean, that never happened. I think there's a couple of committees that were started because of it too. IT committee, maybe? I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
I don't
Okay.
know. Don't quote me on that.
So maybe that's something you could go away with and you come back. I should have said this to you earlier. Get a list of what they've done.
Okay.
Good, that would be great for somebody to give a presentation at town meeting.
Well, I like building that into
Okay,
this,
great.
is like you're required to come in front of town
Yeah.
meeting, and so people know what you're doing.
And like that East Milton overlay was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I think, process to get that through, meeting with the neighbors, this and that, so it's a chore,
Okay.
give them some credit, so,
Big deal.
yeah. Okay, to be continued, hopefully wrapped
Yeah,
up.
that's great.
Well, I want to beat this to death. Does anyone here have any, so you're going to go away, they'll be making some changes, presumably not the 3-year staggered terms, but they'll be making some other changes probably tonight. And then we'll come back and maybe we'll decide, do we want to, well, I guess, let me ask you, we'll come back next week.
I hope to have the new language next time we come.
New language, and let's say they agree with your new stuff, but not the 3-year staggered terms. Are you going to suggest we make an amendment?
I'm going to ask them
Okay.
if they'll go to 2 years. I don't know why I didn't think of that before, till right now,
Okay.
sitting here now, but maybe they said 1 year, more than 1 year is too much, people won't want to serve, but maybe
Okay.
they'd serve for 2 years,
Okay.
I think. Hey, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think, we're on a 1-year term, but we kind of semi-committed to 3 years, right?
I don't know, man. I hate to, I don't mean to disagree with you, but I don't understand why it's important, whether it's 1 year or 3 years,
I think if you're gonna kick everyone off after 1 year, which I don't think is what they're implying,
No.
it's hard to get 1 year short. You
Yeah,
get anything
okay,
I
done.
mean, for something like this, it's like,
Yeah.
like, the East Milton thing took 5 years, I think. You have to have some continuity with people.
I almost think maybe it should be like what Liz did with us this year, like everyone puts in every year if they're interested in
agree.
staying on, and you have to be reappointed. And maybe you are, maybe you aren't, depending on the select board, the planning board, and the town moderator. But, so yeah, someone could be on for 10 years, or they could be on for 1 year, depending on how the boards decide. I don't know, just a thought.
I like the 1-year commitment because then it gives the discretion of the appointing body to reevaluate whether the person should remain on the committee or not, and whether the person wants to make that commitment. So I think 1 year is good, like here. So
Yeah.
maybe 1 year is enough.
Also,
right?
it gives you some flexibility, like,
Yeah.
what if 1 year you need a tree guy, the next year you need a, I don't know, plumber? Something like that.
That's true.
Depending on what the project.
So when, it's a lot more flexibility. Yeah,
I like
okay,
flexibility and discretion.
all right. So I'd probably recommend it then,
Yeah.
I think, feeling.
So I just want to set us up, obviously, not all 15 of us are here, different people might be here, but does everyone think they've not only raised questions, but also I think every question we've raised, we got an answer to?
Yeah.
Raised issues, gotten answers to, so that if we come in the next meeting, we're ready to go and vote. Not trying to be a taskmaster, but I am trying to be a taskmaster. Is everybody ready so that if we come back with changed language the next time, we're ready to vote? And now, Brian said, you said there might be changed language?
They will, they're meeting Wednesday, and So that's what Nick just
2 days
said.
from today. Okay, I don't know why I thought you
So-
said now. Okay,
Hopefully, the next two, we have two more meetings, right? This month, so hopefully by one of them,
okay,
we'll have the language done.
okay.
Hopefully quick.
Great. All right. Let's move on. The next one I have is, I called traffic. It was the planning board article with the traffic fund. I did have to reshuffle some people assigned to this, so I understand. I don't know if the people who are assigned to this have looked at it, and it's totally understandable. Is there anything to report on this one yet?
I would say not yet.
Okay.
Looked at it, but James Lee and I have to sync up.
Okay. Okay, great. I don't want to leap to conclusions that looked more straightforward than some of the other ones that we still have outstanding here, but you never know. Okay, so that's that. The next articles, I don't think, the articles we have remaining to discuss, I don't think we're going to take action on tonight. I could always be surprised, but I think they all could benefit from some discussion tonight. The first one is the alcohol on town land article. If the experts will forgive me for a second, I want to speak a little bit to some of the action that's been happening around here, around that. So I heard from some town meeting members that said, you know, we have thoughts, we have information that you might want to know, and they want to come present to us. And so I reached out to the experts on this article, and I said, can you please speak to these town meeting members? I guess my view, my sort of big picture view, is if we're going to recommend action to town meeting, we want to have all the relevant information before we make our recommendation to town meeting. There's no reason for there to be useful information that we close our eyes to and say, no, that's the wrong process. We want to be as useful to town meeting as we can. However, yeah, okay, I'm going through my little checklist. Yeah, so, and that can be some expert that, if someone is an expert or someone says we should talk to this expert, I'd like to know that. If there's just an issue, an angle on this article that we haven't considered, I think we could benefit from hearing that. If town meeting is going to be considering an issue, everybody benefits if we think about it first. What I don't want, and I haven't seen this at the warrant committee in the past, but I just want to be clear, this is not the venue for town meeting members to come express their opinions or for residents to come express their opinions. That venue is town meeting. So, as I said, I had some concerned town meeting members reach out. I'm asking the articles experts to speak to them. If they're giving us good information, which I think it'll be all of the above, to the extent that they're giving us good information that we can act on, I'm very happy to welcome it. But I don't want to say, oh, you're an interested town meeting member? Sure, come talk to the warrant committee. I don't think that's, you know, there are 281 of them. We'd be here all night. So I think the venue for that is town meeting. And then, you know, when it comes to someone offering their expertise, you know, our first recourse is always going to be to rely on the experts we have. Like if someone calls us up and says, oh, I'm an attorney and I think this and this. You know, it might be an interesting opinion to listen to, but we've got town council. So they're going to be who we listen to first. So that's my soapbox for sort of collecting information from the outside. Can I turn to, remind me who the, Nick and?
Yeah, me and Andrew.
I just know I gave you the hardest ones. Sorry, Nick.
That's true, but.
Okay.
So, I mean, we started the discovery process of trying to learn some more information. Andrew had reached out to the Milton Coalition, to the Chamber of Commerce and the Health Department. They were all kind of reluctant to provide their input until the select board had completed their work, so I think they've done that now, so we got to circle back to them. I spoke today to a representative from the Milton Arts Center, Kevin Damrock. He's very supportive of the article, but you know, we need to combine that with the other information that we get and come back with a recommendation. You'd also given us the name of Margaret Corrales, I think. We traded emails and are trying to find a time to connect them live and talk about that and get her input and opinion and perspective onto that. So we're starting that research and work, and now that I think, you know, hopefully with the articles that we got drafted today from the select board, we can, you know, get some more feedback from the health department and their related parties.
Okay, great.
And if there are other folks that you guys know of, sorry, that are, you know, are interested in this particular or have something to share, sort of welcome that feedback, for more people to sort of get feedback from. So far, it doesn't seem that there's perspective on the details of what's written. It's more just the concept of whether it's good or bad for the town.
Oh, I thought it might be the opposite. So, I'm sorry, say what you just said again?
Very preliminarily.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to read a lot into it.
That's fine.
There doesn't seem to be questions around the details that's written in the article. It's more about whether this is a good idea or a bad idea.
Okay. Julia.
Accurate.
I was going to say, knowing sort of the history of this, that the way it's written currently, which I understand it may not end up being the final copy here, I don't know that it does anything to address the main reason why this was amended in the first place at the town meeting where we voted on. I can't remember which special town meeting we voted on this one on last year, or earlier in 2025. But, the sort of last-minute concern that was brought in was the public health perspective of just, sort of the drinking and the effects of that on children, even just, seeing that and how that leads to higher rates of alcohol consumption as they get older, et cetera, et cetera. So knowing that that was sort of the sticking point at the town meeting that this original article was voted on, I don't see how any of this current language is going to change any of that, those concerns for town meeting. And maybe it's not meant to, but I agree with you. Like, I think you said it perfectly. I can imagine that the general thoughts are like, is this good or bad versus the nitty-gritty details of the article.
Yeah, I think the article itself, my opinion is it's pretty straightforward. And it becomes a kind of value-based decision.
Yeah.
Depending upon which side of the equation you sit on there, you're going to have a viewpoint.
Yeah.
I think is how that's seemingly breaking, but it's still very early.
Yeah.
So,
Larry?
I have a procedural question then. But we're going to have to make a decision, I guess, sort of a value-based decision about whether to say yes or no on this eventually, right? Like when he comes back next week.
I don't know, in my opinion, that's the decision of the town meeting to make that values-based decision. I think for us, it would be
Right.
more the objective benefit, if you listen to and again, it's very early in this
Yeah.
process, but if you listen to the parties impacted, it seems to be on the pro side, this is going to enhance community participation and involvement in community activities, and that's good for the community. And on the downside, it's exactly as you framed it, is that this is going to create a bad role model that might be bad for public health. And so I think that comes down to, I'm sure there's some science-based, I've not heard that side of the argument in detail yet. But and I'm not trying to look past that, but I think it's going to be that values-based decision by the individuals at town meeting to have to approve that, yes or no. And I think there's, strong arguments on both sides.
But my question is, how do we vote, recommend that the town vote yes, or recommend that the town vote no on something like this? Because you're right. Ultimately, it's the town meeting, that has to make a values-based decision based on the arguments, once they hear all the arguments. But we'll still have to make a recommendation, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think
And
this, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all, yeah, you can go.
I think that, again, it's early. To me, the slippery slope is where do you draw the line as to what's a good public event where this should be supported and approved by the select board, I think is the authority to approve these, and what is not. So, for example, I think one of the primary considerations is the ability to hold events on the Manning deck. And that would be, strongly beneficial to the community spirit and involvement and different activities for people to participate in. But who's to say that other organizations in town wouldn't want to have some sort of a fundraiser or event that supports their organization, whether it's, I don't know, you pick the organization that wants to have that event and have alcohol available to enhance the participation and the spirit of camaraderie around that event. And who's to draw? The select board would have the power to approve X event versus Y event, but they're making that values-based assessment. There's nothing in the article that supports that or or creates criteria around that, and I think that's where the actual implementation of this gets to be pretty tricky.
Yeah.
My thoughts, I mean, alcohol is a legal drug, and it is allowed in a lot of things. I mean, they have Porch Fest coming up, it's gonna be allowed there. There's a lot of regular events that kids are at.
Is it allowed?
It's not really allowed.
Well, it's there, they sell it.
It's different. Oh, they sell it at Porch
They
Fest?
have in the past.
I don't know,
Really?
people just
I don't
think so.
BYOB thing.
Yeah, I
That
think
might
they just
not
walk
be
around
legal.
with it.
Well, whatever.
Anyway,
Okay.
throw Porch Fest.
Well, there's
Don't get anyone in trouble here?
You know, the estate, Eustis Estate, I mean, there's a lot of other events in town that they do it. And they can actually do it in the town buildings now.
That's right.
And it is allowed, and it seems, there's a thought out there that the place that this affects the most is the Manning Park, where they can't do it, and that maybe it's a, well, that's the big, like, the select board is the one that makes the decision. There's a lot of, they issue day licenses to a lot of events in the town. And,
I don't know.
and
that
then they can say yes or no to any event.
Yeah, I don't
based
know
on
that
the
they issue
criteria.
any other licenses for alcoholic events,
And they do have one-day licenses, all the time.
for public events?
Yeah.
Not on town land, but yeah,
Not on
like at the
town
Eustis
land.
Estate or
Sure, okay.
the fireworks.
Oh, those
Yeah.
are town land. Cunningham
Yeah,
Park.
so it's
that's
like
not
Milton
town land.
Arts Center is the prime
Right.
example. So if you want to have an event, you want to serve wine, that is an issue. I mean, that
And
is a.
and that's their discretion,
Yeah,
so.
so it's town property or land.
All right.
Yeah, if I can call on myself, yeah, I was sort of wondering, I mean, we're already sending off to talk to half a dozen people. I don't want to necessarily add to your work, but I'm wondering like how many one-day liquor licenses the select board issues every year? It's got to be at least half a dozen because there are regular things that happen. And I just wrote down fireworks. I don't know what I meant. I mean, I know what I meant by that, but like the fireworks celebration, I believe they have alcohol. It's a 2-day thing. There was a fireworks and the Irish thing the next day. I believe they have alcohol there.
It's,
That's
No,
a
it's not-
trustee of the reservation.
Right, it's not on town land.
Yeah.
But,
Town land.
you know, does that sort of set a precedent of, we've already, as a town, it's not on town land, but had a big town event where we have alcohol, and we've decided that's okay. We've also gone from, you know, in the 20 years I've lived here, gone from 2 liquor licenses to like 10.
Yeah.
I'm making those numbers up, but gone from almost no liquor licenses to quite a few. Does that also say where we are as a town? To address Larry's point of how do we make a decision, we can point to things like that. This is how the town is going.
Yeah.
I have a question for Nick,
Shoot.
actually. Nick, so based on your interviews with the people involved with this, has there been a concern expressed of liability? Is that the reason why I mean, so it's okay with day licenses at the Eustis or elsewhere, but is the issue liability? Are they afraid that if alcohol's involved, and let's just use the Milton Arts Center, by no means it's just something that's stuck in my head, that somebody trips and falls, or there's overindulgence, and I'm just wondering, is that really the issue with some objections to this?
I wouldn't say that any of my work so far is complete by any means, so I don't know that I have a fully formed view of that. I think a lot of that is covered in the article as it's written today, because you have to have a licensed professional paid bartender. There has to be stipulations around making sure that only legally aged people are being served, and there has to be a method for tracking that. So I think a lot of those liability questions are kind of addressed in that. The issue seems to be more around the public health role model examples, which is why I think it comes down to the kind of value-based assessment the town meeting is going to wind up having to make. That's my sense. We're early in the process.
So it's okay to drink at home in front of your underage children, but we can't do it on Milton property.
Well,
You can choose to do it or not.
Saying. That's pretty much what it says.
That's it.
Julia,
so,
Restaurants, you know.
public health person here. I think we need to be careful about, oh, well, we've done in the past, what precedents have we set? Because Public health information is changing, we're always learning more, and it was just in January of this year that the Surgeon General came out and said that, alcohol is related to increased risk of several different kinds of cancers, and even moderate consumption can increase cancer risk, which is the opposite of what, a lot of us have been told for a long time. So we know more, and we make different decisions with that information, and I think this is a really tricky one because there is so much, people can see it as like a value judgment. And I think no one's saying you can't drink in front of your underage kids at home, but also the studies speak for themselves in, the statistics around youth who grow up in different environments or are exposed to different sort of societal norms and their level of alcohol consumption as adults. So that's the public health aspect, which I don't think we should take lightly or just base off, just say, well, we've always done this way. And obviously, because we've increased liquor licenses, there's an increased appetite for being able to drink. And maybe there is. And maybe we want to reflect that with an article like this. But I do think the public health implications are important to understand and to consider.
Can I counter that by offering that if you're restricting alcohol consumption on town property, what's the impact on public health when it's going around in restaurants, in one-day licenses at home, et cetera? So the town is still granting one-day licenses, but not on their property. So if public health concerns are really the reason to prevent this article from going forward, then perhaps there should be one-day licenses. I'm just counting that. So if the true intent, underlying intent is public health reasons, then we should just abolish alcohol entirely by the town. I'm just suggesting that. No, I'm just, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that one piece of town property, what's really truly the impact to further public health goals? That's all. I'm just counting that. I'm not disputing. This is from a person who doesn't drink at all. So, but I'm just saying it's no loss to me whether or not there's but that's my thoughts.
Don't know if you have a response. I was thinking the same thing when this was coming up and people were talking to me about it. This article is about on public land owned by the town. So, I don't know how that relates to these bigger questions. But Julie, I had forgotten you were a public health expert, so thank you for the reminder. I appreciate your input. Do you have thoughts as to Larry's question, which is how do we come to a decision on this? The meta question.
I know. Well, and something actually that I was surprised hasn't been brought up yet is also the sort of like economic business impact. Not that it's massive because we're not talking about restaurants and stuff, but like the Milton Arts Center, I think that was a part of it. It's not just the bringing people together community part, but also like, is that going to have a financial impact for them if they can't sell alcohol at their events anymore? So it's a multifaceted, obviously, issue to consider. I can put more thought into how I think we might want to approach it, but it was a tough one last time we had to deal with it. It's a tough one this time.
So can I? So Nick, you said you talked to someone at the MAC, the Milton Arts Center. Can you say more about what they said?
It was really all about community building, that it enhances the participation in community participation in events that they would host. They think it will allow them to host more events with a greater variety of, primarily in the Manning Park was I think the target of their ideas, but they could bring in, a range of different community events and art, expressions of art. I'm not the most articulate art person, but, performing art, musical art, all kinds of different art, not just, I typically think of art as paintings and pictures on the walls, and that's what I think of as the art center. And I think, they have a broader vision than that, which I think is great. And to enhance the environment for the community and enhance participation at those events seem to be their primary motivation.
Well, I cut off Larry a minute ago. Larry, Julia, Ron?
Oh, I was going to say, Margaret Carroll, she's a public health
I was,
person.
and that's what I was,
That's a good resource for you.
feeling the need to like represent her here, because she was,
She's the person that I traded messages with and we're trying to catch up with. Jay had pointed me in her direction.
because she's
Yeah.
the one who came and sort of introduced that amendment, I think, on the floor last time. But
And that's sort of what I said at the beginning of, we don't want all 281 town meeting members to file in here, but if somebody has some valid information for us, I
And
do want that.
she, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the points she wanted to make was not, that it's not all or nothing, that there is a process that, one can follow at these sort of events too, but, it should be like a ticketed area where it's 21 plus only, ID should be checked, like that sort of thing, so,
Right, and those features are specified in the article.
Licensed.
Yeah, I mean, take this for the second or third hand information that it is, but that's why I said I was surprised when you said it was all or nothing, because I thought the people who reached out to me with concerns wanted specific changes, and then they could find that to be a good compromise.
Yep, and
Again,
we're
take
very
that
early in
for-
the process. I've
Okay.
not heard any of that feedback so far,
Totally
but
fine.
those types of considerations are delineated in the proposed article, so
Okay,
I personally, as I read through it, didn't see any obvious places that seemed to be shortcomings, but we are collecting feedback.
yeah, and if we listen to the select board meeting where they talked about this, they had some proposals, they said, no, we'd rather do this than this, maybe the people you talk to will suggest some amendments, and I'll stop rambling. That was Larry. Julia, did you get your turn, or, okay? Ron?
I recall we discussed this article, or some version of this article last cycle. If I recall correctly, we talked about what is the role of the warrant committee. And it was primarily about managing the town's finances and guiding the town. I think this article goes into our feelings on vices, and I think what we said is, let's not get pulled into that discussion, let's focus on what we're here to focus on, and it was the impact financially to the town. And that's what I would think we would try to have again,
Okay.
so we're not pulled into our personal opinions on alcohol or smoking, or, these are hot button topics for a lot of people, everyone can have an opinion, so I think that's where we netted out last time. And I think we looked at it financially, and we laid out the concerns for the town, but we didn't get into how do we feel people should behave. I think we left that to the other experts.
Yeah, if I can speak to that, yeah, I totally agree. I've talked to some of you throughout the year, and I may have said this last week, I don't think we were chosen to have 15 different opinions, and 8 of us think one thing and 7 of us think another thing. Town meeting is where the people's voice is represented, not here. But then it sort of still leaves Larry's question, okay, then how do we make our decision? So I'll stop at that.
That helped. Thank you.
That's really good context.
Yeah, that was really great.
Thank you, Ron.
Question.
So I got Cecile and then James Lee, if that's okay?
Oh, I didn't have any.
Oh, okay, you were,
Oh,
okay, I don't know. Okay, I imagined it. James Lee.
So in the vein of what Ron just said, like, does that mean that we would, or is the responsibility of the warrant committee beyond the budget? Do we have any responsibility around governance, law, right? Like, we talked about community, so do we have any input on any of those things? And if we do, then I feel like that's probably where we would kind of say, is this if we're in favor of it, it's because that this article speaks to clarify how the law is written, or whatever the previous articles state, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if I can address that, yeah, I did want to push back on what Ron said a little bit. There's, our personal feelings way over here, and there's the town budget way over here, but there are other things we're called on, we're called on to give opinions on all these things, and some of them are not budget related. So, yeah, we are called on to discuss town government that's not necessarily budget related. Julia.
Yeah, and my memory of when it came before us last time is we actually, and I'm embarrassed as a public health person, like we didn't really talk about or really consider the public health aspect of it. And then it was, brought in as an amendment by Margaret, I think, on the floor. And it was this big, the Board of Public Health hadn't been consulted, and so it was sort of like an aspect we didn't really discuss as a warrant committee because it didn't come up. And I will say, it obviously struck a chord at town meeting because that amendment passed. And so like, I think for us to say like, oh, well, we're not here to talk about that is, I don't want to say cop out, but kind of a disservice to town meeting, who very clearly that message resonated with them. So I know it's tricky and uncomfortable, but I still think, I mean, I guess we could take the route of like, hey, we just consider this from this sort of financial standpoint. But to Jay's point, I think we have more of a duty than just that. And again, I don't have a great idea right now of how we should approach that as a group, but I'm not sure that we should be that narrow about it, personally.
I mean, to your point, I mean, there's plenty of other articles in here that have no financial impact that we're going to be voting on, based on value stuff, so.
Yeah, I'd like to call on Brian, then James Lee, and then
So
I'd like to speak briefly, and then I think, I don't know if we're making progress here. So Brian.
my recollection at the last, when that came up, we didn't get the copy of the article until right before the meeting, that where they wanted to prohibit it from the land. She came and talked to us.
You mean the amendment?
The amendment, right. We didn't get it, so nobody really was like ready. And my recollection is, and she's on the town health board?
She used to be.
Yeah, but she was at that time, or no?
I think at the time she still
Yeah,
was.
but they hadn't made a decision. She was coming on her own, like they had talked about it at the health
Yes.
board, but the health board never gave a recommendation.
Correct.
So they had no opinion on this. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they didn't, she wasn't coming as a member of them, she was coming as her private opinion.
No, and that's what I was gonna say. I think it could be really useful to get the Board of Health's.
Yeah,
Milton
I don't know if we can twist their arm to get them to respond, meet, and,
Yeah, I mean, Andrew reached out to them. They were reluctant to, as I understand it, they were reluctant to provide an opinion before the Board of Selectmen had made a recommendation on their own. And I think they may have some conflicted opinions, because I think, I don't know exactly what that reporting structure is. I think some of them are actually hired by the town, and so they may not be able to express an opinion independent of the Board of Selectmen. I'm not sure exactly how that works. So we're definitely working to follow up on that, and we will report back.
yeah. And I think no matter where that comes out, we should put that in the comment. If our comment is, we asked the Board of Health, they either did not meet, or, if they're not answering, then we want to put that in the comment. They're not answering. James Lee.
I feel like as we spoke to like each one of the points where Board of Health, public safety, liability, all of those things have money associated with it, right? Like if we speak to public safety, do you have additional staff that you have to kind of take into account whenever an event like this happens? The Board of Select, as you have to kind of weigh in on this, what are you not weighing on that could have a financial impact to the town? So there's always some kind of money that's associated with any of these decisions. And so I think that we do have a way to kind of say, this is why we weighed in on it this way or not that way, right? Because if there's liability, there's a financial impact that the town doesn't want to take on, so therefore we would say no.
Do you have a response to that?
More like a recommendation for myself and maybe this group, and maybe we can find the meeting last year where we talked about this in nitty-gritty, the Warrant Committee, because I remember the issue of liability coming up, and like, we did get answers to a lot of those things. I don't remember them off the top of my head.
I'll find the minutes from them.
Okay, yeah, and, or maybe even the YouTube and, the time.
It could be in our comment. Written.
Well, it might just save us all a lot of discussion to review that ahead of our next.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. I think for the other articles, I was like, let's beat them to death. For this one, I think we've reached a point where I don't know if we're getting a whole lot of benefit. I will say a couple things. One, maybe I'm being naive and maybe I'm being crazy. If my second or third hand information is correct, and that the Ms. Carroll's and her colleagues, if they really do just want to make an amendment, I'm not saying we just do what they want, but I'm saying that might make life easy. It might help us figure how, do we want the yes or no? If they're, the public health people are saying, let's make these amendments, we consider that. That's one thing. Another thing, I said at the beginning of this that I gave Nick the 2 hardest articles. We've knocked 4 articles off tonight. Is there anyone who wants to take on, watching the YouTube video where we discussed this last year, watching the YouTube video of the town meeting article where this was discussed, and, again, I don't know if everyone has the context. Last year there was an article that said, can we allow alcohol on town land, meaning in buildings and outside? And it was amended at town meeting to say, scratch the outside. We're going to just say in buildings. And town meeting voted yes, you can have article in town on buildings, but the amendment made at town meeting whenever it was but not outside. So does someone want to take on watching that? Again, you can listen to my podcast while you're on a walk. It doesn't have to be onerous.
Get advertisement.
What were the arguments there, and then what did we discuss here? Nick, is sometimes too many cooks spoil the broth, but can you use help?
Yeah, I think more perspective is always better than less. So if other people.
I mean,
wanna
like actual
watch
help,
videos,
like
that's great.
I'm trying to contact this person, you go do it.
I think
Do you
there were
need-
good suggestions here today. There's not that many people to contact, so I think we're going to be all right.
Okay. So you're still doing what you're doing.
Sure.
Do we have volunteers to watch the old?
I'll do it.
Okay. Julia.
Maybe I'll look too. What's the date, what was the date of it? What?
That's part of the assignment?
Sorry. I'll let you know.
And I'll find the minutes.
It's been a lot of town
My
meetings.
note, I got still have my notebook
Yeah,
here.
there's only.
Yeah, I've got it in my notes somewhere.
Was it
All
January?
right.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so people are, and maybe Nick will be the lead and go through him with what you
There's
see.
more than one date, I remember that.
Okay, all right.
Is that the kind of thing when I find it that I could send out to the group?
Oh.
Like, here's the link and it starts at this minute and ends at
Oh,
this minute?
that you can.
Okay.
Yes,
That'd be
yes,
amazing.
yes.
We would,
It
that's,
was like a whole night of the
And I have no opinion on it.
and if you ask me.
Okay, it's shortly after 9. I would still like to address a little bit more of the outstanding articles. Light trespass, that's the other difficult one I gave to Nick and Ron, right? Can you talk to me about the status?
Yeah, sure. We shared some proposed amendments to the select board, and those amendments cover some of the concerns that we raised around the lack of appeal, the amount, and just how the mechanics would work out. I think Nick and I are going to try and sit down with Ben of the select board just to see if they would take those friendly amendments. If they have questions, then we can discuss. So
Perfect.
we'll try and catch him within the next week, I hope.
Yeah, we asked for his availability and we haven't heard back yet, so I
Okay.
will check in again.
Okay.
Maybe include maybe Nick Milano on that too.
Okay.
And so he could be helpful with that, I think.
All right. Maybe I'm a worrier, and I think other towns have passed similar laws, and if so, then that might cure my worries. But I was reading it, and I emailed the two of these guys, and I said things like, wait, you have to measure it to determine someone's in violation. So let's say they're in violation, their 30 days of no fines have passed, and now they're going to start getting fined every day. Does the inspector have to go out and measure it every day that we want to find them? And, maybe the real answer is, the real answer is we hope we never find anybody and people agree to turn off their lights. Maybe the real answer is, yeah, if you want to find somebody $300 a day, you do have to go out there every day and it'll still be enough to stop them. But like when I read the article, I sincerely don't know. And I sent a couple other nitpicky questions to you like that. I really don't know the answer, but.
Yeah, if it's a light switch that someone needs to turn on, if the inspector goes out and it's not on, that's not non-violation, I guess.
Yeah.
So how do you force someone to turn on the light switch to prove it? There's a lot of execution side questions. I don't think Nick or the select board has really thought through those. We'll ask
When you
them.
say Nick, you mean?
Milano.
Okay.
We're going to include him.
You
but-
looked over there.
Sorry. Nick will be out there measuring.
I don't think Nick has thought through these. Sorry, okay.
But I think those are the questions. I think the bill
And maybe
on paper looks to make sense, but how do you actually, execute it?
Well, you're an attorney. Is the answer that the bylaw doesn't need to address that? They'll figure that out when they do it? I don't know.
well, it doesn't need to. We can live with a messy law and live with, sorting it out, because that's the proposal. There'll be amendments. That was their proposal last year, that some of these can get sorted out next year. I think we all have opinions on how that works, but I think those types of questions on how do you actually execute this with human beings will be things that we need to discuss.
Okay, great. And so you have talked to Nick Milano about this, or you are planning to?
We're gonna try to talk to Nick and Ben.
Okay, great, wonderful. Great, okay, I'll leave that at that. Any other comments? Any other questions from the people here?
I guess the one thing I would add is there's no doubt that Ron is a lawyer based on the feedback that he made to the article.
Excellent.
Compliment, right? Just checking.
I will say there were a couple of, I won't say different opinions around the table last time we talked about this. One was, what do we think about motion detector lights? Yes or no? Another thing, and Nick, you and I have emailed about this, what do we think about the lights shining onto a park as opposed to shining into someone's yard? Would it be a good use of this committee's time to hash out where we think about either of those issues? Or do we let our experts do their work and come back to us with their opinions?
Well, this is going to come back at a future date.
I mean, it's in here though, right? They talk about waters and residential use and conservation area. Like, it sounds like they're trying to be pretty specific.
It does say that.
That's language that we think should come out.
Yeah, it feels a little oddly
Because it doesn't
specific.
say
Also,
park.
waters of the United States
Right,
just makes me
that
laugh.
one too,
So like
right?
the ocean, I think
So,
we're safe from
It
that.
doesn't say park, it talks about wilderness, right? And so I think that's the difference in the article. I personally think that the article, as originally kind of somewhere in here, it defines light trespass, the intention of it, and it gives a nice definition of that. And then later on, it tries to go further down beyond light trespass and the infringement on personal property to things like wilderness or the waters of the United States. And I think they're related issues, but they're distinct issues. And so personally, I think if they want to, cover both, we should cover both. But it talks about light trespass and then tries to stick that other stuff in there. And so I think we should stick with the light trespass as, sort of, more for clearly the public good of the personal property in the town. That's my value judgment on that, versus the other issues that aren't trespassing on people's rights, if you will.
Okay.
But I think that's one of the questions that we need to have with Ron and Ben.
Okay. And you saw I emailed the chair of the Parks Department asking if he had an opinion.
Right, but it doesn't say parks in there. So, so I'm happy to, I know Rob, I'm happy to talk to him. But I'm not sure that it's related to the park department.
Okay. I appreciate that.
I would also just note it, I don't know, and you guys are fine tooth comb guys, but like the author has notes here saying waters of the United States and says including a specific definition may be appropriate. So do we write down Shields Park, Turner's Pond? Like, again, I don't.
Those might be comments from town council that you're looking at.
Yeah, it just says author, so it may well be town council. It feels like a really good
That's an
comment
article
though.
that the select board just said, yeah. so
Correct, I got
it
the
doesn't reflect the
one.
feedback, so
Of course
we're in
not.
a version control issue here at the moment.
Yes.
too, so-
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
100%, but it seems that maybe they're responding to something you guys talked about or.
Yeah, I don't think so
Last year.
yet, but maybe.
Okay, yeah, hard
Yeah.
to say. I just think there's value in,
I think the Coast
if we
Guard might
are
have some-
looking,
sorry.
but if we are looking, like, if I live on Turner's Pond and my neighbor 3 doors down has really bright lights and I can't enjoy Turner's Pond, that's different than their lights are on my property. And
Right.
so I think, I'm not using Turner's Pond specifically for any reason, but, I think that, it's just, if we want to be specific about things like that, then we should, and if we don't want to be specific, we shouldn't, but that strikes me as an important question.
I agree.
Yeah. And this goes against what I said many, many times, saying we don't represent the town, town meeting represents the town. But I do think one of the driving forces behind this article and articles like it are examples of people shining lights into parks, disturbing other people. So
Yep.
I am going to be hesitant to have this article not cover that at all.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. I'm one of 15. It may not be where we end up, but
Yeah, that's how I read it too.
something to think about.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, just so you know, we received something, I don't know when it was, today, yesterday. So to address what Nikki said about the comments, we received something, I believe these are comments on all the articles from the new town council, new as of last week.
Okay, swell.
Yeah, so they just got these on like Friday or Thursday or something and responded to them today.
What is the new town council's name? Is it?
Okay, I don't know the person's name.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
They're just in there as KP or something.
Yeah. Okay, should we move on? It's after 9. I want to. The other article we have left is the sign bylaw. I'm drawing up. Who is the Larry and Macy? Okay. I mean, I think you two have been keeping up with. Have I been keeping up with this? I mean,
I know, yeah. No, I mean, I have
keeping up with the most.
No, I have to say, Larry's been great at taking the lead on this. I've been
What's the current
absent
status?
the last 3 weeks, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I have it. I
You know,
actually printed
some
it
point,
out and read the
There's a lot of
comments.
lawyers that have been weighing in on this, so it'd be really nice to have your.
So maybe I should stay out of it then.
Yeah, this has a lot of cooks, and it's so you made a bunch of recommendations. The planning board met last week and made a bunch of changes based on your recommendations. Some of the stuff that we brought up here, which was good. But I had some other citizens reach out to me with some concerns of their own. When I went to the planning board, I wasn't really sure if, I don't know how those public meetings work. I was calling in, so I wasn't really sure if I could say, hey, here's some other concerns people had, So I guess what I might do is I might summarize those and send them off to the planning board to see if they want to make any more changes. And then we'll see if we can get it back here for our next meeting in a final form. But as it stands right now, there's been a ton of edits, from town council, the old town council, the new town council, Nick, and obviously the planning board and us. So I think we just need a few more days for that to settle. So I'll take a look at what we have now. I think we have something that's sort of final now. But I just want to read what you sent, I think, over the weekend or today. I'm not sure when you sent that. Yeah.
When I sent, what did I send?
It was like 3
The new bylaw.
Yeah, there's a second.
Oh,
as draft,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, is that the final from the planning board?
As of
For that
9/5.
specific article, we had comments from the former town council and the new town council.
So Mel's
so-
comments are here too, on there. So the last draft is what, September 5th is what I found. That's the most recent draft. Is that the one you sent?
Yeah, there should be one.
But we've
No,
got
what-
town council.
Right, as of comments, and there's like tons of, there's Mello in here, I think this is the most recent draft
Yeah.
we got today.
Yeah, it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
So,
It's a total hot mess. It's a lot of, yeah.
so I'm not really, so I guess the planning board has to have another marathon session to kind of go through all those comments and clarify some things.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the planning board meeting that happened a week ago Thursday, just last Thursday, like 4 days ago. And I am in awe of the amount of work they put in.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But on the flip side, I sort of wish they hadn't put that much work in. Maybe hand it to someone who works in town hall and say, hey, can you make all these changes?
Well, here's what I was thinking, right? So this originally came from Tim Zawinski, the old town planner, right?
Okay.
Who left, his post, whatever it was, a few months ago. Right now we have no town planner. His assistant town planner also left.
Mm-hmm.
So now but I believe Jim Davis told me that they have just recently hired a new town planner. I'm not sure when they started, if they've already started or not. So it seems to me, since the original bylaw with the edits came from Tim, who is a full-time town employee and is not, a planning board, or us, a volunteer, not one of the volunteer committees. It might not be such a terrible idea. I don't know if this is for them to maybe send it back and have the new town planner have a go at it and have it come back at a future date.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if this is a good place to suggest that, but that's kind of where I'm leaning to this after seeing all the edits from the
Yeah, it's a
two town
lot of
councils.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts, but maybe for a different reason, or yeah, because, there's so many, I mean, with all due respect to the planning board, when the chair was here and said, oh, there are a few typos like missing periods, I found, I'm a nitpicky person, this is what I do for fun. I found a ton of typos, and they weren't just missing periods.
Yeah,
and then
they were material.
quite a few other things that was like, I don't understand what's going on here. So I feel like I'm missing the forest through the trees. I'm looking at the typos, but I'm not able to step back and say, what is the sign bylaw? Do we like it? Do we not like it? Should we have it? So that's one concern of mine. And yeah, it gets to the bigger question of what should we do? Should I share my screen? Is that useful? All right, I'd like to share my screen.
Can I do a really quick interruption?
Sure.
I don't think I have that crazy stack of
No, I don't
comments.
think
I think he only sent it to me and Macy.
We're
Sorry,
sparing
crazy
you.
wasn't a good distinction.
no, this-
They're very large stack of comments. Jay, do you mind sending it to the layman on the board?
If you remind me, I will.
I'll forward it to you.
Or one of you-
Yeah, I
oh,
have it,
send it
it's on my
to me.
phone. I mean, I think the issue is, I mean, if it's clerical or typographical errors, that's one thing, those are easy to catch, but a lot of these comments relate to substantive aspects of this article, and that's concerning because there's dispute of whether a sign's a structure, right? I read all these comments today, it's substantive, it's definitions, it's the application of this article. So, and I agree with Larry that it needs to be in better shape before we can even present it, or even recommend to vote on it.
Because, I mean, I've been through town meeting, and I've been in town meeting enough to know what will happen if this goes forward as it is. And based on the conversations that I've had with other people and read the existing bylaw, it's going to be ugly.
I don't know if I'm quite ready to give up yet. We've got 2 weeks, but so if I could digress a little bit, I'm sharing my screen, just to questions about what our role is, since it's been, 6 days since we had a conversation about what our role is on the Warrant Committee. It's time to talk about it again. Again, listening to the planning board, putting in great work, but should they be doing the work, or should it be the town planner, who we do not currently employ, and their assistant, who they do not currently employ? I mean, we've got, I just threw this up here as an idea, maybe this is how things should come to us. Boards and committees say, let's do this thing. Then the town staff, they're professionals. They get paid to work here from 9 to 5. Maybe they write bylaws and articles. And then town council looks at it and says, is it legal? Does it make sense? Just another editor. And then it goes back to the board and committee saying, it's written, there are no typos, there are no ambiguities. It's as good as we can get it. The board and committee review it. And then it comes to us. As much as, and I'm not being sarcastic, as much as I do enjoy finding mistakes and pointing them out, it's really not what the warrant committee should be doing.
No.
So, and I don't mean to pick on this article. We've had this from, you could argue this may or may not be an issue with the light trespass article this time. We've had this from select board. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm just saying this has been an issue in the town of Milton, and I don't know how we improve it.
I don't think you're picking anyone. I just think that there's certain articles that it involves way too many complexities, and it's incorporating a lot of things. So it's just, like I said, it's the light trespass. That came from the last fiscal year, and it's coming back, and it's just work. So I don't feel like it's picking. It's just we want to make sure it's in the best shape possible, so that one, it's enforceable, doesn't cause litigation, and the interpretive effect of it is effective. So I don't feel like you're picking. It's just some articles are just far more complicated than others.
In this case,
And
there's a gap. We're missing a town planner.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's trying to fill that guy's job. All these volunteer committees are trying to come together to fill that gap.
I do want to, and I see you raised your hand, Nick. I just want to say, when wondering what our job is, like in the past, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, but in the past, warrant's gone to print, we've said we don't have an opinion yet, and then we go up, we meet for the next month, and then we form our opinion. I was looking at the town bylaws. What's our job? The warrant committee shall report in print before all such meetings our estimates and recommendations for the action of the town. So we're supposed to say in print what we think the town should do. And sorry, what, if I'm talking about warrant committee process, everybody starts eating cookies?
Everybody, we've been looking at these all night.
Long story short, it is our responsibility to say in print what we think, if at all possible, not to say, sorry, we're going to take the next month to decide. So if it's time for the warrant to go to print, and we really don't have enough information to make a decision.
Keep me awake.
I think we not only say, well, we'll think about it for the next month, but say, we got to kick this back.
Yeah, no,
And not encourage the board or committee to work on it for the next month.
Absolutely.
Brian raised your hand, but Nick raised his hand first.
Disagree with you. I agree with you.
You said disagree, I heard you.
He
said yes.
in my mouth.
He was
But he was-
busy eating a cookie.
Get a
No,
cookie, so.
I think that if you can't get all the answers to questions, if you look at the bylaws of the warrant committee, you're supposed to ask questions, and they're supposed to give you answers. If you can't get those answers, I think we should always be kicking it back.
Nick, you had your hand up a while ago.
You had the process up there. I don't know if that's the ideal process or the way
I
it's
made it
supposed
up.
to be.
I made it up 2 hours ago.
Because we've spent 2.5 hours here today basically debating language in every one of the articles, which isn't the process you had on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally made that up.
Okay, thank you.
I love it.
2 years doing that. 3 years.
Well, I mean, I think there are extremes. I think most of the things we discussed tonight came to us pretty fully baked, and yes, we discussed language, but like what would you say tonight that we did was, sorry, I'll wait till you take a bite of cookie and then I'll ask you a question.
Sorry, I think almost every article we discussed tonight, we've talked about changing some of the language. In a lot of them, we elected not to, but we considered it in every instance. Because I think the way we talked about things last week, that was what we thought was our responsibility or our mandate or our, a task before us, which is just different than what you had put up there. And so if we followed the process that you put up there, and we're just going to say yes or no to all the articles that are before us, or recommend or not recommend, if we have the questions that we have seemingly tonight, we'd wind up not recommending most of them.
I guess as I said, I threw that together in 15 minutes or less. What I meant by the process proposed was not that was that we receive an article, it's and again, I'm not trying to insult anybody, it's professionally written, it does not have typos, it does not have internal contradictions, it does not have things that are infeasible written into the article, and we have to say, this is supposed to happen within 60 days, but this is supposed to happen within 90 days, those don't add up. I want to receive an article that fits together and could be a law, and then we discuss it.
I mean, yeah, we can see clarification. I'm sorry, Ron.
Yeah, Ron?
Yeah, I think in the past we said we don't write the articles. Right? We advise on them, maybe we ask them questions so they can be clarified. But the role is, for the writing, goes back to the other committees and then the staff. It could be that this one's one of those that needs more work.
Yeah, I don't want to dismiss it yet, but
There's just a lot of comments to incorporate.
there's a lot of comments to
Yeah,
incorporate.
I mean, that's
So
like-
You
I
just saw it, Nikki just saw it. Yeah, I just sent it to her.
And that's after they've already gone over
So I read it to
all
them,
of the
like,
changes
oh my
that you've made,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
are mostly typos and things like that,
Yeah, this is more than that.
So,
And again, I just sort of like a philosophical question, like, should an article be a certain length? Like, obviously, we're not gonna put word limits on it, but boy, people's ability to read and process all that seems, I mean, like, we saw Alex shorten an already modestly sized article to make it more clear. That struck me. At first, I was like, oh gosh, maybe people need context, but then I was convinced that we have a limited attention span. Town meeting debating this article?
well, yeah, I mean.
Take like a month.
Well, anytime there's a zoning article, it's going to be a dozen pages or so, and
Okay.
town meeting's fine with that if they have faith that the right people have looked at this and gone through it and okayed it, and, maybe one or two town meeting members look at it and they're okay with it. But as they referred to what town meeting's not okay with, and this happened less than a year ago, I don't remember which one, but it was a planning board article that even a week before town meeting, a concerned citizen came up with, sort of like the list I had, they came up with 24 changes. And the planning the planning board chair stood up in front of town meeting, was like, here are these 24 changes. Yeah, we like this change. No, we don't like this change. That was dead in the water. It was never good. Because in town meeting, members stood up and said, I don't know what I'm voting on. And it was, yeah, because town meeting has to know what they're voting on.
Oh, that's great. And thanks, because I'm new at all of this, so I super
Oh, yeah.
appreciate your guidance.
So is now time to, what's up?
Now time to vote, is that what you said?
No.
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 It's now time to move, the last thing on our agenda is approving minutes. Should we do that, or?
Yeah, we have 11 sets. I'd like to get them voted on and published.
Yeah, now that we all had cookies, we're in good shape, yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to just?
I told you you're in charge of minutes, so.
Yeah, I'll mention that. So Karen was wonderful in distributing 11 sets this afternoon for everyone's consideration, hopefully approval. We'll start with the easier ones because I think everyone was present for September 8th and 9th of last week. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 8th and September 9th of last week.
Second.
Okay, can we vote by show of hands?
Can we debate?
We can?
Could I don't know, ask that we defer that vote until next week? I don't think it's particularly fair to ask us to read stuff and vote on it on the same day.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to read it,
Okay.
and so I would like to defer. I don't mean to, I know these minutes have become a sore subject, I don't mean to keep kicking the can down the road, but I think we should at least have time to read them before we have to vote on them.
Do you feel that way about all of them that were sent today?
I think I was only in 2 of the meetings, I think there's some from
Okay,
January.
so we can wait.
Yeah.
So someone else will have to do them because I won't be here next week.
Okay. I mean, Nick was only speaking for those 2 minutes, but I think
Well,
Nick
the other
makes a
ones
good
are
point.
from they're from the last fiscal year. So the only persons that were present are Brian, Julia, you, Ron, and myself. That's it.
And I have not had a chance to review any of them yet,
Okay.
so I would abstain.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Well, it's a good plan. We have
Yeah.
them, we'll vote next week.
Yes, you can.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that is everything. Thank you for your patience, and thank you especially for, I know I've asked for a lot of work outside the meeting. Hopefully the work we're putting in outside the meeting decreases the work inside the meeting. And we're in good shape to approve things next week. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, yeah, do it. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Bye.